Yo, what is up guys? It's your boy Sami here. Today we are gonna see what if Naruto married with Naori Uchiha part 2. Hope you will enjoy the video. So before we start, please subscribe to our channel and share this video with your friends. So let's get into the video.
Alright, well, first things first. Standing in an alley next to the building he was about to enter to buy some new supplies, Naruto frowned, considering he would be a customer of one of the assholes who had shunned him. He probably could manage to sneak in later and steal the items without being caught, but the blonde absolutely hated thievery with a passion. Then again, the damn villagers had been thieves in their own right for overcharging him for so long, but he would never stoop to their level. Besides, with the hidden Anbu tailing him, he figured it would be too risky anyway. After quickly counting the 700 plus Ryo he had within Gama-chan his frog wallet, Naruto scanned the area to make sure no one was looking, and decided to try using a half seal to transform instead of the traditional two-handed method. It actually proved to be a little difficult. After a few attempts he smiled in contentment at his new appearance. He had turned into a beautiful red-haired woman resembling his late mother Kushina, who had short hair that fanned out, and dark purple eyes. His grandfather had transformed during their date together to show Naruto different Uzumaki members he was very close to, and Naruto never wanted to forget how his mother looked after finally seeing her with his own eyes. As he walked around the corner and into the Shinobi General Supplies store, the young man at the counter lifted up his head upon hearing the doorbell jingle, and his eyes instantly widened. This had to be one of the most gorgeous women on earth in front of him, and stuttering out a greeting with a large blush she offered to help the Redite find whatever she needed. Disgusted, but still flashing a false smile at the pathetic guy, Naruto declined his offer and began browsing, as the man never stopped staring with drool escaping his slightly open mouth. Seeing this, Naruto began thinking maybe he could turn this infatuation to his advantage, and he quickly made his way to the back of the store where weapons and clothing were taking in everything he saw and comparing prices. He had learned how to budget his limited income a long time ago, and he would surely be stretching his Ryo as far as they could go to suit his needs. Frowning at the lack of orange of any shade, he decided to keep it as simple as possible for the moment, and quickly grabbed some black shinobi pants with white bandages that were pretty common in the Leaf. He also found a cool black guide too with a large white spiral on the back that was pretty nice. He also found some black shinobi sandals that went high up along the ankles with interlacing black straps that increase functionality. Also getting some new black socks and a shuriken holster, he finally managed to score something with orange, even though it was minimal. It was a large black cloak similar to the one the masked had worn, but the inner fabric was dark orange in color instead of purple. It also reminded him of a Shino because of the sleeves that would conceal his hands, and deciding that he had found what he needed, he approached the weapons and skimmed the inventory. He didn't hesitate to grab a new shuriken set, since they were easier for him to throw than kunai, and he also got a large shuriken, thinking it would look cool on his back, and maybe even offer a little protection. He didn't really know how to use it at all, but whatever. He was still Naruto Uzumaki after all, and looking cool still mattered very much to him, along with standing out. Seeing a large assortment of swords to choose from, Naruto found something quite interesting that was cheaper than a sword set yet very fascinating. It was a low-quality double-edged blade that at first appeared to be a circular section of bamboo. However, if you look closely you would find that there was a line in the center of it, and instead of being a single blade, it was in fact two swords that were sheathed inside of each other's hilts. It would definitely be a surprising weapon to use, as he could trick his opponent into thinking he either had a stick or only one weapon at the very least. The blonde also got some ninja wire, and a nice calligraphy set in an oak box, and plenty of scrolls to practice like his grandfather had told him to do. He would need perfect handwriting before being able to perform any written seals, and he would be focusing on that primarily before he finally journeyed to Whirlpool Country. Finishing his shopping, he made his way to the checkout counter to pay for his items with a fake flirtatious smile that made the austere clerk get very nervous. "Excuse me, handsome, but since I'm a new customer, and I have so many things, I was wondering if you could give me a discount maybe," Naruto said, cutely causing the dumbfounded bastard to blush and stupidly nod his head. "Sucker." The disguised blonde thought, inwardly smirking at the 40% discount he scored, along with the purchase being tax-free. After having his items bagged he smiled and said he'd see the man around, ignoring the thirsty guy who had tried to ask him out with disgust. Dudes were generally just suckers for ass and tits, and despite loving the female form himself, Naruto still had an intense dislike for perverts. Exiting the shop, the boy swiftly took to the rooftops, while dropping the transformation, happy that he only had spent around 250 Ryo. Now he just had to go to the library and get a book about birds to find out what he was doing wrong with his owl, but first he wanted to go home and change. He was hungry too, and an hour later he was in his new gear after taking a short shower and eating some pork instant ramen. He thought he finally looked like a real ninja, and he decided to keep his hood down and his cloak open to expose the orange that was inside of it. His swords had come with rayskin straps, and he kept it in the small of his back inside of the cloak, concealing it for the most part. He quickly made it to the Konoha library without anyone noticing him in the darkening evening light, and pausing outside of the double doors it almost appeared, as if he was standing at the gates to hell. That's how much he disliked the library, as it reminded him of all the times he was ridiculed for his slow reading at the academy. Taking a large calming breath, he then transformed himself again, taking on the appearance of his great-grandfather Shino. He just wanted to get in and get out as soon as possible, and placing his hands together in front of him in Ashina's dignified manner, he entered gracefully, looking serious and confident. The librarian at the checkout counter greeted him respectfully, as he frowned internally at her different response than before. Well, he was relieved his plan was working out. He had met this woman before, and she had been far from polite, but regardless, he was here on business. Can you help me in finding a book on different birds? Yes sir, if you go down that aisle there you'll find books on many species of animals, and it should be easy to find. I could come with you if you like. No thank you, I'll be fine. Naruto replied, already striding toward the information he needed. As he crossed the library, however, Naruto looked around wondering what else could he find within its confines, and his eyes nearly popped out upon seeing that there was actually a shinobi section for ranked ninja that was relatively unguarded. There was a single shinobi standing guard, and he looked to be quite bored, and realizing his opportunity, Naruto ducked off into a deserted aisle behind a tall bookshelf. No way. He thought, growing excited at the possibilities. He was all business, as he focused with all his might, and placed his hands in the ram seal, readying a shadow clone devoid of noise and smoke. He was nearly successful, as a doppelganger faded into existence with little noise and smoke, and although a little sound was made, no one seemed to notice. There weren't many others in the library anyway, and the other people he had seen were all too busy studying or searching to notice him. Coming up with a plan that he was confident would work, Naruto handed his clone the sealing scroll he had bought earlier, and sent it to the while he himself searched for the bird book. It didn't take long at all to find, and, as he heard the sound of something hitting the ground hard, he smirked at his ingenuity. The clone had used his recently perfected sexy to knock the unconscious in the spray of blood that shot from his nostrils, and Naruto decided to go and check out his book. Well, the clone got whatever it could get. While he was against stealing, maybe he would bring the items back later, and it wasn't as if he was hurting someone by taking them. He needed to get stronger if he was to make Ashina proud, and defeat Sasuke Uchiha to win Sakura's heart. Thinking about it, Naruto decided to ask for a dictionary, as he knew he probably needed. A book on plants and making swords came to his mind, since Ashina said to truly understand the sword you needed to learn to create one. Always seek to create, not to destroy. The Uchiha told him, showing his wisdom. Naruto already missed the man very much, and looked forward to visiting the temple again to try and see him. Getting a book on herbs, poisons, and plant cultivation on top of the bird book, and the swordsmithing ones he finished, and swiftly exited the library without a word. Heading straight to his apartment, as fast as he could, the Uzumaki entered, dropping his transformation, and creating shadow clones, while he waited to see what he got. Telling them to start studying, he began doing push-ups and sit-ups for a while until creating a clone to practice arm trapping with. Doing the Kai Sao and Lop Sao exercises from Wing Chun for about 30 minutes, the clone finally returned with a shit-eating grin that only promised the good stuff. As it poofed away in a small plume of smoke, Naruto adopted the same smile once he processed the memories, and his hands suddenly found themselves in the ram seal. He now had scrolls containing the Shunshin, Underground Fish Technique, Force Lightning JOOTSU Think Star Wars, Wind Palm, the Fire Style Phoenix Flower, and the Water Encampment Wall Technique. He also had a book on Advanced Chakra Control, Basic and Intermediate Sealing, and Advanced Shuriken. Then there was an Elemental Chakra Trading Guide, Theory Book, and a book on a Taijutsu style called Mue Born. The picture on the front of it had grabbed his attention instantly, as it showed a warrior jumping off of a man's knee while elbowing him in the head, and knee striking him simultaneously. It looked like it was powerful and direct in application, and so it appealed more to the blonde than the academy style. Lastly, he got a text on Konoha history, and a map of the elemental nations. Now he was set, and he knew it. All he had to do was make as many clones as possible to study, and he'd listen to Ashina, who told him to write down everything he learned to give to his other clones to learn better and faster. It made perfect sense to Naruto, as he would remember everything better, while multiplying the reading material he had. Everything was set in motion, as his clones got to work, and he left to go to a training ground, and learn the dot. He wouldn't waste any time at all, and the boy was looking to push his shadow clone to the limit around the clock. Since he could even get better while he slept, they were truly a gift from Kami, and he pushed that advantage. It didn't even take him an hour to find an empty ground, and began by channeling as much chakra as he could at once, and creating 100 plus clones to split up, and learn the dot. He himself would be practicing the taijutsu style he had started developing from facing Itachi so many times, along with his shadow clones. Naruto had been killed hundreds of times in combat already, and now he understood something that Ashina had informed him of. It was better to imagine losing in multiple ways, and dying during training, in order to strengthen the mind. It meant that he'd acknowledge his faults while training, and add some realism to the possibility of his defeat, which wasn't to be mistaken with lack of confidence. But not fearing death, and knowing what it was would make you able to free your mind from worry and fear. It would even increase spiritual energy and willpower, along with meditation which Naruto did himself, before he practiced Wing Chun. After sitting still only 20 minutes he could take no more, and the energetic blonde trained well into the night, showing complete devotion in improving himself. The next day midnight. Thrashing around in his bed after a long day of training since he admittedly cut class, Naruto was again dreaming about his encounter with Itachi in vivid detail. As the murderer approached him for what could have been the 1000th time with a tanto in hand, Naruto burst into a sidekick while using a single-handed seal combining his ninjutsu and taijutsu. He had learned the move from Itachi himself, after seeing the man decimate the clones the blonde was allowed to create within his world. Nothing would work against his impressive speed and reflexive ability, but Naruto had indeed begun learning from experience and clever imitation of the unique sighting style he used. The main things Naruto saw were the sidekick which were used simultaneously with kunai strikes from many angles at once, the shoulder grabs which Itachi would use to flip over an opponent and throw him away or cut his throat, and the usage of shadow clones that faded into existence while in the middle of attacking. The Uzumaki had begun combining these tactics while trying and failing to defeat Itachi, and he had slowly been improving after more and more deaths. Itachi had seen this after a while, and had even commended him, although after that praise he was only belittled by the killer. Naruto was repeatedly told of his lack of skill and inferiority which Itachi would then show him by countering everything he tried effortlessly. He had never felt so helpless his entire life, but he still held his determination which couldn't be shaken by the Uchiha prodigy no matter what. Naruto had had his eyes gouged out, his throat cut and ripped out, his ribcage destroyed by brutal slams and powerful kicks, his armpits and wrists cut after swift counters to his straightforward punching, and his guts spilled on the ground during some particular slow deaths. Itachi was merciless, and Naruto did in fact learn what shinobi were. Being a ninja meant the possibility of an early death, and Naruto didn't want to die. That's why he'd get stronger as quickly as possible, and had only sent a clone to the academy instead of attending it himself. Nothing of interest really happened, but his clone had defended Sakura when some other Sasuke fangirls called her forehead large. One of the girls happened to be Ino Yamanaka, who recognized him at first, but she was surprised to see the new Naruto after seeing that horrendous jumpsuit for so long, and despite her crush on Sasuke, she did admit to herself that the boy looked good now. After a large commotion, Naruto's clone was dispelled by the abusive subhuman creatures that were fangirls, but not before getting the satisfaction of seeing Sakura's thankful expression, along with her confidence rise because of his compliments. After sending another clone to the academy and being reprimanded for being late, the rest of the day was rather uneventful, save for Hinata Hyuga staring at him and eventually fainting after he sat next to her. She was really weird to the boy, and her shyness was kind of a turn-off to him, but he had to say that she was beautiful when she wasn't sick like that. Her face would always get red, and she'd pass out, and Naruto didn't know what sort of illness caused that, but it must have sucked. Since Sasuke Uchiha hadn't shown up that day, Naruto had gotten to talk to Sakura-chan some more, and after a long day he finally just vanished at the end of class when he bid her farewell. He had succeeded in impressing the pink-haired girl with his stunt, and he looked forward to seeing her reaction the next day. As his unpleasant dream changed from fighting Itachi to kissing Sakura, Naruto rolled over, and hours passed until he was awoken by the blaring sound of his alarm clock. The sound had always annoyed him to no end, but this time was different, and he quickly got up and performed his morning hygienic activities. After finishing and preparing ramen and fried eggs, Naruto scarfed the breakfast down and roof jumped his way to the academy, not feeling like wasting his chakra with Shunshin. The boy was still worn from using so many clones at once, but at least he had managed the Shunshin and Wind Palm after a full day's training. While he was learning using the two-handed seals, he looked forward to using half seals with all of his techniques eventually. He theorized it would allow him to use multiple ninjutsu at once, and perhaps ninjutsu, and simultaneously. Arriving in class after a few minutes, the blonde saw that he was one of first to show up, the others being Hinata Hyuga and Shino Apurum, who Naruto knew next to nothing about. After receiving a head nod from the silent boy, and being surprised by the gesture, Naruto decided to strike up conversation, and said, "Hey, it's Shino, right? Would you decide to be a ninja if you don't mind me asking?" The stoic boy replied in a monotone voice. "Why?" "Because I am the heir of the Apurum clan, and, as the future leader of my family, it is my duty." "Why do you ask, Uzumaki-san?" Nodding his head, Naruto answered. "Was just curious, and I'm looking for a sparring partner since I've started learning a new taijutsu style. You wanna train later, and just call me Naruto by the way." The Apurum heir just looked at Naruto a moment and nodded his head, replying just as other students arrived. "A new style, you say? I'm intrigued, and based upon your changed appearance and attitude, I must admit I would like to see what you're truly capable of. Just don't waste my time if you're not serious." Beaming at the bug user, Naruto was about to say something when he heard an angry outburst from the classroom door. "You?" yelled the raven-haired boy who was Naruto's one and only rival. "What were you doing in the Uchiha compound with those men?" Sasuke was almost instantly in front of Naruto, who had risen from his desk because of the blatant hostility and anger that the Uchiha radiated. The blonde wasted no time in answering, as more and more students arrived as well and took notice of the interesting situation unfolding. "I was just passing by when I was attacked by one of those assholes after I found a dead body. I fought him until he brought me to the house you ran into. He tried to kill the girl, but I protected her. Then you showed up." Sasuke's anger slowly began to fade as confusion replaced it, and he questioned Naruto, saying, "Where is she? I haven't seen her around at all." Naruto looked very upset and frowned deeply. "I don't know. I was knocked out right after you were. What happened?" The Uchiha heir's face contorted in rage as he spat. "My brother's betrayal happened, and I'll avenge my clan if it's the last thing I do. He has to die." "Yeah, well, you better kill him before I do, cause if I get my hands on that bastard, he's finished for what he did to me." Sasuke looked extremely surprised and instantly said, "What do you mean?" The entire class listened closely as Naruto explained further. "I'm not gonna go into detail, but let's just say I know what it feels like to die. Thousands of times. That sick bastard needs a taste of his own shit, so you better get strong enough to annihilate him, or I'll do it for you." Sasuke's eyes widened in recognition, knowing that Naruto was talking about the Tsukuyomi, and eventually his eyes darkened, and he coldly told the blonde, "Chen. As if a weakling like you could achieve my ambition. Only an Uchiha can hope to defeat Itachi, and, as the last of my clan, I will be the one to strike him down." Getting angry because of being dismissed as a weakling, Naruto challenged, "TCH, if I'm so weak, why don't you prove it, prick? Fight me during the spars today, and I'll teach you to never underestimate me again." Even Shino Abiram looked surprised, and Sasuke did as well before quickly compassing himself and declaring, "We'll see. I'll show you what strength is, and then you'll understand why Uchiha is elite." The entire class burst out in many different conversations about the upcoming fight, and many in the class had already written Naruto off, knowing he was destined to lose. They also began talking about the Uchiha massacre, although those discussions were a lot quieter out of respect for Sasuke, who sat silently with an ever-present scowl. He didn't even try to appear polite to his fan club that vied for his affection, and even though he was callous, the fangirls just seemed to get even more obsessive. Sakura was amongst the group, although she was actually one of the two distinguished groupies that displayed some talent. Ino Yamanaka was the other, and the two of them bickered with each other, as well as the other banshee-like creatures that fawned over the Uchiha. Sakura did greet Naruto while beaming after she had arrived, and she tried to tell him that Sasuke was too strong and might hurt him, as she was worried. This only served to infuriate Naruto, but he didn't lash out or even display his anger at Sakura's words. Instead, he just asked her how she liked his disappearing act yesterday, and she then remembered and became very curious about it. Naruto was overjoyed at receiving the attention, and wanting to keep her interested, he teased her, but never told her how he did it, saying a magician never reveals his secrets. It actually was working at first, but then Sakura got sucked into the Uchiha subject like everyone else, and then their sensei Iruka started class, preventing him from talking some more. After a few long hours in which Naruto actually tried paying attention for once, the moment of truth finally came, and spars began after the class went outside. Sasuke instantly demanded to be allowed to fight Naruto as the first match, and smirking, thinking the demon brat would get a decent thrashing, Mizuki agreed, smiling. Dumping to the large square platform that was their stage, Naruto had a determined look that was returned with an equally determined Sasuke's focus form. The intensity was palpable, as sparks seemed to fly from their eyes, as they squared off facing each other, and Kiba Inizuka tried to get someone to take a bet, with only one surprising Kunoichi betting on Naruto. The boy was momentarily stunned when Hinata Hyuga of all people actually placed Ryo on the Uzumaki after stuttering shyly. Deciding he'd talk to her later, Naruto refocused just before Mizuki initiated the battle with a drop of his hand and a hajime. Already in the Wing Chun stance by standing normally with his arms extended in a triangular shape with his open hands pointing Sasuke's face, many were surprised at how the spar quickly escalated. Sasuke rushed Naruto without warning, jumping into a crescent kick, looking to end him in one blow, and Naruto only barely managed to block, although he was still sent tumbling. "Is that all you have, loser? PSHH, weak." Naruto was instantly back on his feet, as Hinata gazed in worry, and Sakura cringed. Entering his stance again, this time Naruto took the initiative, and ran towards Sasuke, who readied himself, and deflected the low sidekick Naruto launched. Sending a low roundhouse that made Naruto's knees buckle, the Uchiha was surprised when the blonde continued forward through the attack, and hit him 5 times in rapid succession, using the chain punch technique. The straightforward attack was disrupted by a vicious hook that wrapped over the short straight punches, and Naruto staggered away, as Sasuke burst forward angry at getting hit in his face, after one of Naruto's punches went through his guard and hit his chin. Naruto, realizing Sasuke was coming at the last second, launched multiple straight punches, again trying to keep him away, but Sasuke sidestepped and uppercutted his ribs strongly. Naruto winced from the blow, but in his desperation he used a technique from Naori Uchiha that he remembered from his studies, and grabbing his opponent's neck he tried to knee the Uchiha in his gut in retaliation. Sasuke, although somewhat surprised, suppressed the attack with open hands that pushed the knees down, and he elbowed Naruto's arm, causing him to let go. Then sending a double kick to the boy's chest, he did a one-handed cartwheel, causing many of the girls to gasp in admiration. While Naruto had definitely gotten better, he just didn't stand a chance against their Sasuke-kun. Or so they all thought. Rising from the ground again looking at Sasuke confidently even if respecting his skill, he baited the Uchiha declaring, "You good, but you're no Itachi theme." The Uchiha roared in rage, and rushed forward recklessly, and Naruto was forced to roll out of the way of the jumping kick-punch combination that he angrily assaulted him with. The boys' attacks had gotten faster and more ferocious, but they had also now had holes that could be taken advantage of. As Sasuke rounded and sprung into an overextended straight punch that would have knocked Naruto out had it landed, the blonde surprised everyone present with the maneuver he learned from Itachi. Sidestepping the blow by a fraction of an inch, Naruto grabbed his shoulder and front flipped as strongly as he could, and, as he planted his feet he threw Sasuke away, causing his back and shoulder to hit the ground hard before he tumbled. Everyone's jaws dropped to the ground, as Naruto stood waiting with his hands at his side standing like Itachi would in battle. Naruto had learned that the neutral stance was very dangerous, since it didn't really give away anything about how you fought, and while he was doing it somewhat unintentionally, it still felt more natural than taking a stance. Sasuke leapt back to his feet, as Iruka decided to intervene, but the scar teacher was forced to evade the large fireball that seemed to accentuate the hatred Sasuke's red eyes displayed. The attack was heading directly toward Naruto, and creating a clone with a half-seal, shocking everyone. The boy jumped off it back high into the air, performing a front flip while going through hand seals. The blonde didn't know how he was doing it all so naturally, but everything seems to flow, as he thrust his hand out sending a gust of wind at the Uchiha, who was pushed back off of the stage hitting the ground hard, as Mizuki intervened restraining Naruto, and reprimanding him. Iruka was livid, and thoroughly expressed his anger with Sasuke who was recovering from the attack, but the raven-haired boy only seemed to see Naruto at the moment, who was glaring at him just as dangerously. The entire class was in awe at what they had just seen, as that had been the most advanced fight they had seen in their short lives. As Iruka led a protesting Uchiha heir away from everyone to tell him off, everyone heard Sasuke's cold tone of voice, as he stated, "This isn't over, Naruto." "I know it's not, Dadabayo." "Hey Hinata, right?" After a long day of class in which Naruto boasted of his Uzumaki heritage to the curious academy students who had bore witness to his newfound skill, Naruto had decided to speak to the Hyuga girl who he had admittedly been thinking of all day. She had been the only person to support him before the spar he had with Sasuke, who had been brooding and sending him glares all day long. Sakura had truly been conflicted on where she stood on the matter, as she did still like Sasuke very much, but Naruto was her friend who openly expressed his infatuation with her. While they had politely declined his offer to take her out on a date, at least she didn't bash him over the head, or call him baka or something like that. Naruto had actually been significantly disheartened by her first rejection, but the Uzumaki resolved to keep trying, even if beating Sasuke wouldn't convince her he was better for her. Kiba Inizuka had also challenged him earlier after telling him he was impressed with his match, and Ino had been the most curious of everyone, which had caused Naruto to explain about the Uzumaki clan to everyone, and his grandfather who was the Uzukage. It made him very proud to receive some respect from everyone finally, and even Sasuke had been attentive during his informative conversation with his fellow blonde. Hinata had been smiling proudly, as well for whatever reason, and Naruto had caught her glancing at him multiple times throughout the day, which confused him to no end. Which was why he was standing in front of her now. "Yes, I'm Hinata," she replied, stuttering, and looking like she was at a loss for words. Smiling brightly at her, Naruto warmly said, "Thanks for believing in me earlier, you're the only one who thought I could win. I hope you emptied Kiba's pockets out, haha, but if he doesn't pay don't hesitate to tell me, and I'll shake him down for you." Blushing at the joking blonde, and not even noticing the groan of Kiba who had in fact paid her 50 ryo, Hinata couldn't take any more of Naruto's close proximity, and got lightheaded before succumbing to unconsciousness. Naruto's eyes widened in worry, wondering what happened to her just as Kiba started snickering. The dog boy then started teasing him, saying, "Haha, look at what you did to her, man. Damn, she must really have the hots for you." Naruto, looking confused, replied, "Ha, I didn't do anything. She just got sick and passed out like she usually does. I think she had a fever or something. Maybe she should go to the hospital and get checked out." Kiba nearly died from laughter, and holding his sides he barely managed to get out, "Dude, she's not sick. She's in freaking love with you. All she does is blush and watch you all day, and if you weren't so clueless you'd ask her to be your girlfriend." "I mean I would, she's freaking sexy. You take anything with legs out, Kiba baka, just like the horn dog you are." Ino caught in loudly making her thoughts known, as Naruto stood still in shock trying to put things together. She loves me, he thought, as Kiba and Ino began a heated argument that he blocked out while staring at Hinata. Wow, she really is cute, he thought to himself, as he observed her sleeping form, as her red face began to get normal again, as the blush faded. It would seem that when girls' faces got red that meant they liked him like a boyfriend. Who old knew? Thinking back, Naruto recognized that Sakura's face had also gotten red when he showered her with compliments the day they first met, and thinking of his crush, he began thinking about what he'd do about Hinata. While he only had eyes for Sakura, being had left the boy with a desire for companionship that most people would never be able to comprehend, and now that he found out someone actually had a crush on him, he damn sure wouldn't just blow her off. The least he could do was get to be her friend before he left the village, and maybe she would even make a decent sparring partner for him. She did seem to be pretty good in taijutsu, even if she did always appear hesitant to attack. As the shy girl that liked him opened her eyes to see him looming over her with a peculiar look, her blush returned in full force, as he spoke to her again. I'm sorry for surprising you, Hinata-chan. I was just gonna ask, well, me and Shino were gonna spar later, and Kiba too. I just wanted to know if you'd come along maybe. If you want to. Hinata seemed to move on autopilot, as her head automatically nodded, and Naruto beamed at the girl who began to feel dizzy, upon realizing that she had just accepted his offer. Naruto had actually noticed her. The girl was just as terrified, as she was ecstatic. However, as she was positive he would be less than impressed with her skill like her father was. Then he wouldn't give her the time of day after that. What Hokage would want to be with a weak Kunoichi after all? She was just about to renege on her answer when Naruto spoke again. Alright Hinata-chan, better bring your A-game cause I mean business. But I've seen you spar before, and you were so cool with your quick palm strikes like. As Naruto began mock fighting imitating Hinata using palm strikes, the Hyuga couldn't handle the praise, and passed out once again with a large smile on her face, looking forward to spending time with her Naruto-kun, even if others would be there, as well. Seeing the girl fall out again, and sweat dropping, Naruto once again considered that she may have just been ill, before leaving the classroom once she woke back up, telling her they would all meet tomorrow after class. The girl only began to respond when the boy simply vanished in a swirl of wind, shocking everyone, and infuriating Sasuke who had just been about to challenge the young Uzumaki. It seemed he'd have to wait until tomorrow, but the Avenger had time. First he'd defeat Naruto, and then he'd become strong enough to take Itachi after that. He had to be the best, he was Uchiha after all. Arriving at Ichiraku's, and greeting a surprised Tuchi and Am who were the chefs that owned the stand, Naruto ordered a humble 10 bowls of pork and miso ramen, and devoured the meal before creating a clone to send off. He had just thought about it, and he wanted to grab a cookbook to learn from, so he could make his own food. Burnt toast and instant noodles didn't really count for cooking experience after all. Looking hopefully at the pair in front of him, he also decided to ask. Hey Tuchi, Aim-chan, I was just thinking, and I want to learn how to make ramen if you teach me. Their eyes widening, Aim responded saying. I thought you wanted to be Hokage Naruto. Wanna be a simple ramen chef now? That's not it, it's just I love ramen so much, and you guys too. You gave me food to eat when I had nothing, and you've always been so kind. I want to spend more time with you both, and I give you my word I'll pay you back if you teach me. The ramen cooks looked at Naruto with fondness before Tuchi began explaining what learning would entail, and just like that Naruto had been accepted as a student to his favorite 2 people in Konoha. 1 hour later. Walking home after a detailed discussion with Tuchi about his new sensei and everything ramen, Naruto was on cloud 9, despite the fact that Sakura seemed to be a little more distant after he beat Sasuke. He just couldn't understand why she wouldn't let him take her out, but at least he knew he had a chance because of the blushes he had gotten from her before. All he had to do was keep on pressing, and she'd cave someday, and then he'd marry her, and have pink-haired girls and blonde boys with her. As his thoughts turned back to Hinata while he walked through the red light district's grimy alleyways to get to his apartment, Naruto was suddenly slammed with a massive ear headache that caused him to collapse into a dumpster, hitting his head and knocking him unconscious. It would be 3 hours later that he woke up and realized that all of his clones had dispelled at nearly the same time, which overloaded his mind. As everything he recently learned was processed, although it was somewhat jumbled, Naruto couldn't even register his progress before noticing something. He smelled something burning, or more specifically it smelled like a bunch of different things were burning. The blonde had always had exceptional senses, with his hearing and sense of smell being nearly animalistic. Following the scent, after a short walk he saw that small house was inflamed, and a girl a little younger than he was just standing and staring into the flames. He had never seen the girl before, and wanting to know what happened he approached the silent bystander asking her, "Hey, are you alright?" She didn't even seem to know he was there, as she continued staring into the flames, her eyes looking cold and even dead to the young Uzumaki. The blonde decided to leave her be after a while of trying to get her attention, but failing, and after making it to his apartment, he was surprised to see that the Anbu were there, and waiting for him. "Hokage wishes to see you, Uzumaki-san." grabbing the frowning blonde's shoulder and disappearing in a swirl of wind. The Anbu again disappeared as the Hokage looked up from his mountain of paperwork with a curious expression. Naruto looked very annoyed, and since the Hokage seemed to be waiting for him to speak, he asked, "You wish to see me, Hokage?" The old man winced slightly and replied with a serious tone, "It had come to my attention that you and Sasuke Uchiha had an altercation today in which you displayed considerable skill. Care to explain where you learned the techniques that you used?" Naruto's eyes widened in surprise, before lowering in anger, as he sarcastically answered, "I would have thought you'd be happy that your weapon was getting stronger. I learned from the library, but you wouldn't know that, because you've never actually been there for me. All you do is watch while I'm treated like a worm, and try to tell me about a will of fire. And now after I'm finally improving, I have to explain myself because of what?" He ears and flinched, as Naruto spat his retort with venom in his voice, and the fire shadow slumped his shoulders while saying, "Naruto, I have been there for you, but I can't be everywhere at once. I've kept you safe from countless assassination attempts, and the reason I need to know is because of the civilian council being suspicious of your purported improvements. They're all afraid of your changes, and I have to conduct a mental evaluation of you, as well as Sasuke for his reckless behavior. You're not a weapon to me, Naruto, which is why I haven't had a hand in your training. Think about it, if you were just a weapon to me, I'd have turned you into a killing machine by now. Believe me when I say I've always seen you as a grandson." Naruto's eyes widened as his common sense came into play, and while the old man's words were logical, the blonde remained stubborn. "Even if that's true, you could have done so much more. You didn't have to let me go through all of that when I was still so young. You could have sent me away with someone else or even adopted me, but you just left me alone. There are no excuses, as far as I'm concerned." The Hokage seemed to get even more crestfallen at Naruto's justified attitude before he spoke again. "Naruto, I'm truly sorry. I've been for many years, and I admit that I'm just tired. I've made a lot of mistakes during my life, and if I'm to be honest, I feel that your upbringing is the worst mistake besides my wayward student. I know I can't ever make it up to you, but if you need anything, don't hesitate to ask. I will help you to the best of my ability, but even if you don't forgive me, know that I care deeply for you. I didn't just call you here to get information, however, and if you're willing, there's a certain young girl whose life you saved that wants to speak with you. His eyes wide in recognition, Naruto admitted he had once again forgotten about the girl he had saved back in the Uchiha compound. As he nodded his head looking expectantly, the Hokage simply snapped his fingers, and an Anbu instantly appeared with the young girl in his firm hold. Naruto only now could really make out her exotic features, and he couldn't help but think this girl was even prettier than Sakura. He did so grudgingly, but he still did it nonetheless. Her wavy purple hair and angelic face was just so perfect for him, and now that he saw her, she held herself with a certain confidence that spoke of skill. Owing to the Uzumaki, as the Anbu disappeared once more, the purple-haired girl said, "Uzumaki-san, my name is Naori Uchiha, and I've been meaning to thank you for saving my life. I am forever in your debt, as you protected me, even when my own family tried saving themselves to survive, and left me to die. You didn't even know me." Naruto blushed at her words, not knowing why his face felt so hot, and nearly stuttered a reply, feeling embarrassed. "Just Naruto, Naori-chan, and don't mention it. You don't owe me anything, and I may not have known you, but we can get to know each other now, right?" The blonde honestly hadn't meant it to come out like that, but he seemed to notice his mistake when the Hokage started chuckling, and she seemed to look at him peculiarly. "Well now, Naruto, I didn't know you were attracted to older women. Naori is 3 years older than you know, but I think you two would be good for each other." Even though the old man was joking around, Naruto took his words seriously, and showed a little of his old self by stuttering, and pointing an accusing finger directly at him, yelling, "That's not what I meant, old man. I was just saying." "It's alright, Naruto-san, I understand what you meant. Unfortunately, I am unable to move around freely at the moment, as I am within protective custody by the Hokage, until my skill increases. I have to get stronger, then maybe someday I can avenge my family's death." Noticing the similarity between her and Sasuke, Naruto replied to the girl, "Revenge, huh? I didn't know you were Kanoichi Naori-chan. How good are you, cause I can tell your Itachi is no joke." She seemed to be exceedingly desperate, as she grabbed his shoulders tightly, before he could even see her move, while exclaiming, "You know something about him, don't you? Please tell me, Naruto, and perhaps you could even help me train, if Hokage approves." Turning her head to the aging leader while Naruto stood gobsmacked and blushing at a closeness, the Hokage seemed to think about it briefly before nodding his head. In truth, he had planned on something like this, for the sake of Naruto and Naori. Both of them were flight risks, but if they focused on each other instead of their problems, maybe the two could find love and support in each other. Since Naori didn't know about this, but was still special, Hiruzen was sure she could help Naruto, and maybe vice versa. Pulling his old pipe out after a moment, the Hokage said, "Sounds like a reasonable idea, Naori-san, however I'd beseech you not to be brash in seeking vengeance. You can still do so with the support of the village, as I have decided that with Itachi Uchiha's defection to create a hunter nin division within my Anbu. This would allow you to remain anonymous while still increasing your strength, and when you're ready you could personally pursue Itachi if you still wish to. What do you say? She nodded, looking very determined, as he lit his pipe and took a long drag of the substance within. Naruto gathered himself and asked her. Yeah, it's cool if we train. When do you want to start, Naori-chan? Can we start right now? Naruto looked a bit surprised, but smirking he answered. I'm always ready for a fight. Where will we go though? Leave that to me. The old man declared, snapping his finger once more. As Anbu appeared instantly, he said. Take these two to the Hokage training ground, and make sure all the privacy seals are in place when you do so. Walking up to the pair, the Anbu just put his hands on their shoulders, and shined them away, and they found themselves in a large space similar to a gymnasium. It had a multitude of training dummies and weapons available. As the Anbu walked to a wall and touched it after using a hand seal, Naruto looked at Naori, and was surprised to see her changed appearance. Your eyes. She just calmly told him. This is the bloodline of the Uchiha. It gives us special abilities that make us formidable shinobi. Naruto just nodded while rubbing the back of his head. Cool. So how should we start? The purple-haired girl just said. How did you use that with only one-handed seals? I've never seen that before. Naruto, surprised by her blunt question, smirked and told her. That, Naori-chan, is a secret. But if you teach me I'll tell you how. That wouldn't be a problem, Naruto-kun. Watch this. Going through hand seals faster than the eye can see, Naori shot a blazing stream of fire that traveled at least 20 from her mouth. Naruto was instantly enthralled by the technique, and the glow from the flames made Naori seem like the most beautiful girl to the blonde. Naruto blushed profusely as her flamethrower attack ended after several seconds, and he noticed that she didn't look winded at all. In fact, it was like it was nothing at all for her to do, and staring into her red eyes that had weird lines going through them, Naruto excitedly shouted. Damn, that was awesome. You got yourself a trade. As Naruto began telling the girl about the one-handed seal theory, he eventually decided to demonstrate by performing the shadow clone after focusing a few seconds. As a cage bunshin appeared, the girl never stopped staring at Naruto, and after a moment she also formed a half-ram seal. In a small quiet poof of smoke, a single doppelganger appeared, amazing to Naruto to no end, who began praising her like she was Kami. It had taken him so many tries just to learn them with his grandfather's instruction, and here did it with a one-handed seal on her first attempt. He quickly sobered up when he found out why. It's not a big deal with Naruto-kun, it's just because of my eyes. They let me learn very, very quickly. She informed him, breathing heavier and heavier as seconds ticked by. Really, what else can they do? As Naori gave him a brief overview of the blonde vegan realized something before visibly getting angry. The team also had eyes like hers, even if they were a little different. As Naori turned to her bunshin and looked into his eyes, both of her gasped in shock at the same time at what they saw. It was the pinnacle of her bloodline, which only manifested itself in a few rare and powerful members of her clan. She seemed to be overjoyed at her new visual capacity, and after sending her clone off to practice with one-handed seals, she continued showing Naruto the flamethrower, keeping her promise. While the blonde wasn't having much luck, he did create a veritable horse of shadow clones to speed up the process, seeking to impress Naori. The blonde didn't know why, but he was completely mesmerized with the Uchiha, and almost couldn't take his eyes off of her. While she didn't seem to really notice, at least she was kind, and was in fact impressed with the number of clones Naruto could achieve, saying that he had more chakra than even the Hokage. What Naruto didn't know was that she had indeed taken notice of his infatuation, and after the boy bragged about his Uzumaki heritage, and told her what he was learning, she began formulating a plan that would help them both. While she did indeed feel eternally grateful to Naruto, her hatred for Itachi was just as powerful, and while she wasn't completely steeped in darkness, she was very much vengeful. Naruto literally had the potential to be stronger than anyone, and it would be so easy to get him on her side, it wasn't even funny. Then she definitely and Itachi, and that other man, and the blonde boy did seem like he'd be handsome when he got a little older. Her decision was made. The next day, after another long day in the academy, Naruto Uzumaki enjoyed finally leaving along with a small group of his classmates that were walking with him. He had managed to get Kiba, Shino, Hinata, Sakura, and even Choji to tag along, and although Shikamaru and him were cool, the lazy boy had declined. As they walked through the village, they all wondered just how good Naruto really was, since he had been the one who invited all of them, saying he would spar everyone. While they had all been skeptical that he could fight all of them, his confidence in himself had inspired their curiosity to no end, and they questioned if he really stood as the dead last. After a brief walk during which Naruto skillfully avoided being noticed by putting up his hood, the group arrived at a decent-sized training ground which was currently vacant. Walking to the center of the field, Naruto turned to everyone smiling, and told them, "Alright, we're here. Thanks for coming, guys, and I know you want to know how I'll fight you all, so let me just show you." Placing his hands in a ram seal, the Uzumaki created a single clone for everyone, and turned to Shino saying, "Alright, I don't care if you guys go all out against my clones, but I'll fight you for real, Shino." Just don't try to kill me, okay? Abiram nodded his head, and the spar instantly commenced, as Naruto rushed him, sending a flurry of straight punches at his center. The Abiram air jumped back gaining distance, and then shot forward, striking Naruto with well-timed blows that came from odd angles. While the attacks weren't really fast or powerful, they were all excellently timed, and aimed at points that would leave Naruto disoriented for a finisher. Taking a hit on his chest and arm, Naruto rolled with the second blow, and spun jumping into a curving knee strike, and the strong blow knocked Shino back even though he blocked it. Naruto ran straight at him into a sidekick, while using the kick's momentum to swing at him from different angles. Sidestepping the kick, Shino deflected the first blows, and caught Naruto's arm eventually like a mantis, and turning strongly he calmed the boy into the ground, and pinned him down, ending the first spar. As Shino and Naruto both rose up, the blonde rubbed the back of his head while saying, "That was a good man. Let's go again, and this time I'm gonna be the one to win." Facing Naruto again, Shino calmly replied, "That is unlike Naruto." "Why?" "Because it would seem you lack grappling experience, and it is almost impossible to avoid grappling by an opponent that uses it in close combat. Now let's begin." Naruto wasn't angered in the least by the bug user, as he briefly concluded that Shino was probably telling the truth. How could he win if he couldn't get close to using taijutsu during their taijutsu match? He opted not to think about it much, but instead he thought about the only grappling maneuvers he knew. He had the Kai Sao and Lop Sao from Wing Chun, the different clinches from Uchiha, and the throw that he had learned from watching Itachi fight his clones. He wasn't particularly familiar with his taijutsu style yet, and the only reason he was able to use it in any capacity was his natural talent, and the fact that Wing Chun was so simple to learn. It basically consisted of the chain punching and low side kick, and its very purpose was to be able to be used in an extremely short amount of time. There was also the fact that Naruto had nearly unlimited energy and stamina, and so he could literally keep punching continuously all day. Deciding to press the attack again, Naruto dashed to Shino, jumping into a flying knee strike that was easily avoided by him stepping to the side, as Naruto landed in a crouch. Shino, seeing his chance, moved forward toward Naruto, expecting to land a swift combo with his sweeping hand strikes, but the blonde surprised him when he caught back his right hand, as if he was going to throw a sloppy punch. Shino was already deflecting the blow when he was struck by a fist directly on his chin, and he didn't even see when Naruto had stopped his wide hook swing, and threw a sharp straight punch tricking him. As Shino stumbled, Naruto launched a sidekick that struck his thigh, making him lose his balance, and nearly fall over. Then the blonde looked to finish the spar, but Shino would have none of it, and after rolling away from Naruto's knee strike he dashed him low at the boy who decided to try and take him in grappling. Wrapping his arms around Naruto's arms, he was surprised when the Uzumaki punched his forearm, which stopped his lock, and grabbed it and his shoulder at once. Then a low-aimed knee struck his thigh again, and Naruto managed to win this round when he front-kicked the kneeling Abiram, causing him to roll backward. "Pathetic," declared a raven-haired boy as he walked from behind the trend line, revealing himself finally. His red eyes seemed to home in on and try to pierce through Naruto, and Kiba stopped his spar with Naruto's clones, since he was the only one not watching his fight with Shino. The Inizuka was too happy getting to cut loose and try his new Akamaru, and had taken everyone else's opponents, although no one complained. Hinata was nervous, Choji was hungry, and Sakura didn't really want to fight her blonde friend at all. "What do you want?" Naruto asked with a voice that expressed his displeasure. "I want my rematch, and this time I'll be taking you seriously." As if a fucking fireball wasn't serious, you assholes. What kind of bastard would try and kill someone during a spar? "Hey Chen, but you're still living, aren't you? Stop acting like you aren't excited at getting to fight with me, Uzumaki. I learned about your clan after studying yesterday, and I bet you didn't know that Uzumaki and Uchiha are ancient rivals. It's in our blood to combat each other." Everyone was surprised by the new information, and speaking up quickly, Sakura yelled, "Wait, Naruto, Sasuke, please don't fight. Please." Uchiha turned a cold eye to Sakura and berated her, saying, "And why would I ever listen to a disgraceful weak fangirl like you, Haruno? This is a clan issue, and more importantly this is personal. Now let's settle this, Uzumaki." Naruto was already in his stance when everyone jumped between the two of them, as he yelled, "You fucking bastard. Take back what you said about my Sakura, or I swear I'll destroy you." As both Kiba and Shino struggled to hold back Naruto while Hinata sank into herself in nervousness, Sakura looked deeply hurt by Sasuke's words, and she yelled with watery eyes, "Naruto, please don't stop it. I don't want you to hurt each other." Naruto beamed his struggle at once, and turned to Sakura with a look of deep loathing that absolutely terrified her. It wasn't aimed at her, however, but the killing intent he exuded after Sasuke demeaned her was powerful. She could have sworn she saw his blue eyes become slanted like an animal's, but when she blinked away the tears she found that she was mistaken. Both Ino and Choji were blocking off Sasuke, until Sasuke started screaming, "Get the hell out of my way. Let me go, you fat fuck." The temperature seemed to suddenly drop, as everyone got chills, and a dark aura surrounded Choji, and the Akimichi heir still holding Sasuke turned, and threw himself strongly, slamming the boy into the ground causing him to see stars. The Akimichi got back up while looking down at Sasuke with hatred, and stormed off, with Ino running after her childhood friend, leaving her crushed in the dirt. Sakura, getting worried, went and knelt down next to Sasuke, which confused Naruto to no end, and the blonde was about to speak when Shino grabbed his shoulder. Don't. Why? Because, as long as she is attracted to him romantically, her judgment is impaired, and her potential is stunted. You should instead focus on Hinata, as she seems to be troubled more so than Sakura-san. Taking a last look at Sakura filled with longing, Naruto turned his attention to Hinata Guineas looking down at the ground, and trembling a little. The girl obviously hated violence, and Naruto began to wonder why she would become a kunoichi in the first place. Sorry Hinata, I didn't mean to scare you. That prick just rubs me the wrong way, Databeo. Do you wanna come and have some ramen with me? Hinata-chan, I'm paying, he asked, trying to lighten the mood. The result was instantaneous, as Hinata rocketed off in a jet of blood that shot from her nostrils, and Naruto's sweat dropped again, and decided to tell Shino and Kiba he was gonna take her to Ichiraku's ramen, and they could come too. The boys both declined, instead opting to train more with each other, as the unlikely pair became friends after Kiba told Shino's bugs were cool like Naruto had. Grabbing the unconscious girl, and focusing while using a half-seal, Naruto disappeared in a swirl of wind and leaves, reappearing in front of Ichiraku's startling aim, as he came out of nowhere. That was so cool, Naruto-kun, how's you doing it? And who's the girl, and why is she unconscious? The ramen waitress asked excitedly at seeing a ninja technique by her younger brother. Naruto smiled, and greeted her. It's a secret, Am-chan, but maybe I'll let you watch me train sometime after I finish learning my new language. Then you'll see how awesome I really am. Her name is Hinata, and she's a girl from my class, and a new friend of mine. She's a little weird, but I like Databeo. She's knockout cause well someone said she liked me, and she always gets all red when she gets close to me. I wish she'd stay awake longer so we could talk more, you know. Am got a shit-eating grin, and began teasing Naruto about his new girlfriend, just as Hinata woke up in the arms of her crushing nearly returned to the realm of dreams. Hot steamy dreams about her, and Naruto-kun that she told no one, not even her younger sister. Naruto was quick to set her down, embarrassed about Am teasing his firm hold of his girlfriend, and hearing the insinuations Hinata once again passed out much to her, and touch his amusement. It wasn't long after her third time awakening that a Hyuga branch member appeared, and took her away, saying her father wanted her, much to Naruto's chagrin, and Hinata's disappointment. After eating a couple of Naruto-sized ramen dishes, and chatting with the Ichirakus about the academy, and the Uzumaki clan, Naruto decided to see the old man again about visiting with Naori, who still made his stomach squirmy every time he thought of her. Disappearing in a shunshin much to the Ichiraku's amazement, Naruto arrived at the Hokage tower in record time to see the girl he now unconsciously was extremely attracted to.
That's it for today guys. I hope you enjoyed my video and see you in the next part of this video. Till then, sayonara.